I mean, okay, who's more far right, an anarcho-capitalist or a monarchist?
Correct. Yeah.
I don't know what the answer to that is, like who's more far right, and it's not clear to me that one leads to the other.
Yes.
It seems like there's just different first principles that people can have that are different values, and it's not clear to me that they exist on this like spectrum where like, AOC is more far left than Chuck Schumer. I'm like, I think they just have two completely different worldviews. If we take them at their word of what they believe, which I don't, but you know, like, but you know exactly what I'm saying. And so like that's kind of where I'm like allergic to calling myself a centrist, because even that implies like this directionality, or of like I'm sitting in the center, balanced between these two positions. That to me, they almost fundamentally make no sense because of the vibes, because of the fact that it is a vibe, because of the fact that most people will, if they're like a voting Democrat or Republican, they have like a laundry list of issues that they then will associate with themselves that fundamentally have nothing to do with one another. If you're anti-gun Democrat or something like that, you can read Karl Marx where he says, under no pretext should we allow the workers to be disarmed. So, you know, like the most far left person is completely against, and is that because they're just like triangulating to the center? I don't think so. I think a lot of people who are like the most far left Democrats in America will be the most anti-gun oftentimes, unless they're Marxists.
Yep.
So I don't know. It's not really a question.
That is the criticism of the left-right dichotomy is absolutely valid and correct. I guess while you were talking, I was thinking, I view it like the dichotomy between subjective and objective. We're talking about philosophy. Those terms in and of themselves are not, like, if you only have the concept of subjective and objective, you're not going to be able to grasp, like, the idea of color as qualia. It's like, is it objectively true that this is blue? It's like, well, colors don't only exist in the minds of the perceiver. The qualia of blue is, to say it's an objective fact implies that it exists out independent of, you know, a mind independent stance or whatever it is. And I've repeatedly found that, well, objective means fact, subjective means opinion. It's like, no, because your subjective sense of something is still a fact about your experience, and that sense might be detecting something that's a fact. So left and right are very blunt tools. To your point, I think there was a book recently by researchers who like noted just the cycle of which the left will be pro-tariff, and then the right will be pro-tariff, and then the left will be pro-tariff. And we've seen it in our, you know...
What was the recent book, Trade Wars Are Class Wars, that came out prior to Trump's re-election.
Okay.
That was touted by many Democratic, like, influential Democrats who were like, this is an amazing book. We need to look into this.
As in like a pro-tariff argument?
Yeah. Trade wars are class wars. We need to oppose this neoliberal trading order because that exploits the third world, etc.
Yep. And or even just the degree of like skepticism of pharmaceutical companies. It's like that was all left wing, and now, you know, then the pandemic happened and it rotated. So yes, there's still some utility to it. Again, I view it in the context of the order chaos dichotomy of there are
but couldn't you say the left during the pandemic was the order side, because they were saying trust the experts, trust the science?
So this is
so doesn't that, even that kind of flips on its head?
100%. And or like Trump is definitely not the person who is bringing order to society, right? It's first, I'm not saying this to convince you to not view it this way, because it could be the case that it's actually just better to not view it this way. The reason that I could use that conception, the very practical one, is the meme is out there. Everyone has the left-right continuum.
Sure.
It's really unreliable.
We're looking for something outside of this binary in a way, right?
Outside of the left-right binary?
Yeah, or I'm putting words in your mouth, but are you trying to like free people from being bound to?
And so the center can exist at a left and right pole. It can be a three-dimensional space. It can be, you know, so in that sense, it's not suffering from just being on the left and right dichotomy. I would defend the left and right dichotomy to some degree, because it is just practically, it is partially, it's a blunt tool. It's useful. If I say I'm left wing economically, that still sort of means I'm for, more redistributive policies and all that. I'm left wing on guns. Like it is kind of just a function of language. Like we could use a different word. And left and right are relative terms by definition. To your point, like what was left wing 100 years ago is now, far right, or whatever today. It comes down to, the reason I think it's valuable is because of the stability versus transformation dichotomy. People are wired, at least along one dimension. There's many different dimensions of personality. You could be extroverted, high positive emotion or low positive emotion. Conscientiousness doesn't have any necessarily direct correlation, although there's a correlation between conscientiousness and political orientation, as well as openness to experience. But on the dimension of leaning towards stability and leaning towards transformation and novelty, that is a consistent, real, cross-cultural phenomenon.
Sure. Okay.
And that's what I think of when I think of left and right.
Like we have to deal with that reality, like however vulgar or blunt it is.
Yeah. And so, like, for example, Trump, people say, well, Trump is the chaos candidate, obviously. So how does that fit onto the left-right like stability? In some sense, you can look at it from the mimetic perspective. What's the narrative? What's the meme of Trump? Or what is the meme that Trump wrote on? Make America great again. We used to have something great. We used to have a once great society with stability and order and all that, but the radical left has come and ruined it. And so now we need a person to go in, shake things up to bring us back to order. Because in the more fundamental questions, well, the radical left, they don't believe in a man or a woman. They don't believe in, whatever, religion, all of the things that give us order and stability. The left, this is the narrative, the left challenge. There's truth to that, obviously, some degree. So that narrative is a right-wing narrative, right? The point about like the pandemic with the lockdowns was the left more in favor of order or whatnot. That's probably the best. That's a great example of how it defies the spectrum. I believe conservative temperaments are actually more sensitive to disease in terms of conservatives have higher disgust sensitivity. Yeah. Which includes like infectious disease. That's why conservatives are much more like, don't do any, just missionary sex, none of that other, weird shit or whatever. Not that that's all conservatives, but that's the meme. And it's like, there's a famous study that shows that a very strong correlation between the prevalence of infectious disease and like authoritarian attitudes, like politically. Yeah. So it's like, hey, if everything's disease, we're going to have strict sexual taboos. That's right wing. If everything's disease, we're going to be, staying inside. And so that was the exact opposite for COVID. Now, my hypothesis for why that would be, actually, I was thinking about this on the way here. Early on, actually, conservatives were not necessarily against the lockdowns. We didn't know how bad the disease, if the disease was like, if it did kill 1 in 10 people, I'm sure the conservatives would have been just as get inside. You're not smoking weed at the skate park or whatever. You could very easily see a conservative narrative. Once I think people perceive bad ideas as diseases. We know for a fact that moral judgments are processed in the same part of the brain as literal disgust in terms of like rotting meat. Yeah. That's why all of our things are, I wash my hands of this, I need to shower, I feel gross after doing something immoral or whatnot. It's literally the same part of the brain. And so from a conservative, which virus is worse? COVID or the woke mind virus, right? Sure. And the woke mind virus is the one enforcing the lockdowns. Again, that's how I would... That's how I would view that. But to your point, it's like, okay, well, if we have to do all these gymnastics to keep the left and right dichotomy, what's the point? And it really is a practical matter of left and right are sort of so embedded in how the average person conceptualizes politics that if I'm going to lead, if I'm going to say I'm a radical centrist, it at least creates some grounding for someone to go, okay, he's not far right, he's not far left. What can we hear from there? And really, at that point, then maybe we should, the first thing I should say is I'm a radical centrist, mainly because I think the whole political dichotomy is screwed, or whatever, and then it's a performative contradiction. But you raise a very valid point for sure.
Interesting. Yeah, it's almost like what we call left and right. Maybe even the order chaos dichotomy you're bringing up might be even more fundamental, and it might even be the case that occasionally they the left will seize on the order side and the right will seize on the chaos side. That could even be possible
Sure. Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
That if we're really fundamentally just talking about two different temperaments that seem to be broadly represented across like two halves of society,
they can flip flop in terms of positions.
Yeah,
and a
possibly.
great example of this is environmentalism. So conservative temperaments are more disgust sensitive, but being environmentalist, that's a left wing thing. But within left wing people, what are they disgusted by? Like sludge in the toxic, toxic sludge or whatnot.
Yeah.
So you could get someone who is conservatively temperamentally or from a personality perspective with high disgust sensitivity, but their disgust sensitivity is oriented towards like the pollution of our environment. And so they're taking on left-wing environmental beliefs, but the narrative they're being told is one that activates their disgust sensitivity, which you could put by definition is more a conservative belief, but I guess you could switch those two, it's not like fundamental. It's like yin and yang could just be switched.
It's really,
but it still refers
really
to different things.
Yin and yang, yeah, which each contains a seed of the other, don't they?
And that is why the symbol of my channel is yin yang with some sun beams around it.